Well, welcome once again. Fourth episode
Fourth episode.
coming in hot. Today we're going to be talking about Bocchi the Rock, and we are going to be drinking some golden flower Taekwon Yin. It's an oolong. And I'm Austin,
Jett.
and let's get into it.
All right. So, episode 1 starts us off by introducing us to a young version of our MC, a Miss Hitori Goto. Was that what you got? Goto?
Mhm.
Yeah. Hitori Goto. It's immediately apparent that Hitori is extremely shy. The scene kind of shows her classmates are playing. She's too scared to even approach them. And so right away we know that she's it's kind of social anxiety kind of thing.
Yeah.
And right away after school, she always goes straight home. She never stays home for any clubs. And so we just really learned that she's super shut in.
Mm-hmm.
But she kind of has like some inner monologues, and she definitely wants to really change that about herself. And so one day at home, she's watching this interview of the band talking, and one of the band members is like, whenever I was in school, I was the kid who was at the back of the class.
I was a shy type.
Yeah, I was the shy type. And but he said the words, being in a band is a place where even introverts can shine. Mm-hmm. And that just really struck a chord, no pun intended, with Hitori, and she immediately runs straight up to her room, grabs her dad's guitar, and gets to practice.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting moment. And then it kind of shows her, she likes to hang out in her closet a lot. That's where she practices all her music. She's kind of, she's recording herself, making some online videos, posting those. And so some time passes. I think she's soon to be starting her first year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of things she had mentioned to herself. She's like, I want to start a band. She just has this big dream she talks about of being able to perform in front of thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, she wants to drop out and be.
Yeah, she definitely she does not want to do any more school. She wants to drop out, and she just wants to play music and be able to make a living doing that. But yeah, and so her online alias is Guitar Hero.
I like that.
Was that a name that her dad suggested that name to her?
Yeah, I believe her dad said that would be a good one.
Yeah, so Guitar Hero, that's what she is online. And she's quite popular online. I think it said something like 30, in the range of 30,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And she gets a ton of comments, a lot of people praising her.
In a sense, that's like her social interaction.
Yeah, that is her social interaction, and that's just where she's comfortable. Of course, she doesn't show her face or anything. She kind of shows just her body, her guitar.
And just,
truly
just guitar content.
Yeah, and but it's cool, and it's just cool seeing her do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so I thought it was pretty funny. So it's like her first. I think I don't know if it's her first day or she kind of just was starting however long into her first year in high school. But I thought it was really funny seeing. She was trying so hard to get people to notice her.
Yeah, she just started carrying her guitar around.
Yeah, and so I think one of the first things she does was I'm just gonna leave these CDs on my desk and see if anybody comes up and starts talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then she showed her with her over shoulder bag had a bunch of pins and all this kind of stuff on it, and she was like, notice me, people.
Yeah.
That didn't work, and she finally has the idea. I'm gonna bring my guitar to school. And people are gonna see that I'm just this cool rocker chick.
Yeah.
She refers to herself rocker chick. But more of the same thing. So kind of it shows her a scene of she's just sitting. She's at the park by herself, kind of reflecting a little bit, and then this blonde gal comes up to her. Looks to be the same age as her.
Uh-huh.
And comes up to her and is like, "Is that a guitar? Sweet, come with me."
Yeah, we need you.
Yeah, she's like, our guitarist, I'm in a band, our guitarist had just taken off, we need somebody. And before Hitori can even speak, she's then dragged off and they take her to the well, it's called this. It's like an underground
Like a club?
club spot.
I think they always call them just clubs.
I think
Starry.
Yeah, Starry. Yeah, Starry's the name. She kind of gets dragged off to that local spot, and so.
And I thought it was interesting because they talk about, and this is maybe getting ahead of myself, but I just don't know how the club scene is in Japan, but apparently it's hard to get a license to be a club, so they all just like are considered restaurants.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so she gets taken to Starry. She's introduced to Najika is the blonde drummer who had leader of the band and drummer who had kind of discovered her and semi against her will taken her to the Starry, and then we meet Rio. And Rio's the bass player. She's kind of like she got this cool emo
like stoic.
vibe.
Yeah.
She's pretty. I like Rio. She's emotionless and
Nosing records all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like immediately I was like Rio's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they introduce themselves, and they're like, we have a concert coming up and we need you. Let's practice. So they have a practice session, and they're immediately like, you suck.
Yeah, it's disconjointed because she's never played with anyone before. Even though she's skilled at what she does, playing in a group is just a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, and so that kind of bugged me because I was thinking to myself, I was like, she sucks. Like we saw her rocking out in her closet, but then it makes sense. Like she's never been in a group setting. She doesn't know how to. What's the word like?
She can play her own tempo, and it doesn't matter. So she has to really the guitar.
There's no synergy between there's obviously them just meeting each other today. There's no synergy there.
Yeah.
And of course, Rio and Najika have been bandmates for who knows how long. But yeah, so they're about to perform. Bocchi, who is just crippling social anxiety. She's panicking. She's like sitting in the trash can right now, and she
does
it's so
that all
funny.
the time.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And she's like sitting in the trash can, and they're kind of like what's going on? We're sorry. You don't suck that bad. We just need you to kind of. They're just trying to work up some confidence in her, and then I guess she sees like this old mango box.
Yeah.
And then Rio's like, why don't you play in this? And I was like, no, surely not. But next thing you know, lo and behold, cut to they're on the stage.
And there she is.
And there she is in the mango box.
Because she's used to performing in like dark, cramped spaces.
Yeah.
So it's like homey to her in a weird way.
Yeah. And so they play the concert. They are not great. But they did it, and it's really nice to hear. Salvatore was like so surprising to hear whenever Nijiko was like, next time, next time will be better. You'll have time to work on it.
Yeah.
And then Hitori was like, next time. But it's also here that that she gets her nickname, her first nickname. I thought it was funny. They were kind of talking about it earlier, and she's like, "What do people call you at school?" She's like, "Well, they usually just say hey and you there."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, those aren't nicknames," So that's funny. But Rio's actually the one who kind of comes up with Bocchi, which I think it's Hattori Bocchi, like all together one word. It's like a Japanese word for all alone or something. It's like something like that. There's some semblance there, but so that's where she comes up with Bocchi.
It was kind of a jab, but she was just so ecstatic to have a nickname.
Exactly, her first official one. So she'll hereby from here on out be referred to as Bocchi. But yeah, so that's kind of like sums up episode 1 pretty much. We kind of were introduced to her.
And it touches on some interesting things.
Yeah, she has crippling social anxiety. And she really, the only reason she wanted to form a band and started playing music in the first place is because she wanted to kind of battle that. So we learned that that's like one of her main goals is to get over this social angst that she feels.
Yeah, and there's a particular stadium she keeps wanting to play in. Like I want to fill up the so-and-so stadium. And I thought it was interesting in that she's so successful within the confines of her bedroom, and this just shows like you can do like bedroom producing, or people who are shut-ins and they just really dial into something, can find their own communities and have their own presence online while still being like completely socially inept.
Yeah.
It was just really interesting.
And it kind of bugged me whenever Najika was like, "You remind me of this person online, Guitar Hero," and I was like, "Bocchi, tell her that's you.
Yeah, get your credit.
Yeah,
Get your
tell
credit.
her that's you." But
So picking things up, Najika, she invites Bocchi to Starry for a meeting to discuss the band, and really it's to get to know each other. She brings out this like comedically large dice with like topics on it, which I thought was really funny. So it ends up kind of bombing because the first thing they do is like, oh, let's talk about school, and Bocchi admits that she chooses a 2-hour commute to school so no one would know the secrets of her past, which they never touch.
Never is touched.
I was really hoping that would be like an opportunity for a really interesting story note.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like,
did something tragic happen?
I was like, we're gonna hear about that later.
But I don't know. It felt like a seed, a really good seed that could have been planted
absolutely.
that just whiffed on that. But anyways, they continue to learn more about each other. The dice is rolled some more, and Nijika's doing her best to not make Bocchi feel so self-conscious, because every single time they hit on anything, it's not a great topic for her. And it was kind of funny because Ryu seemed to be a loner type as well, although the difference between them is Bocchi, I think, wants attention and has this social anxiety, but Ryu is perfectly happy being by herself.
That's by choice, very much by choice from Ryu.
Completely different type of person. And at this point is when I start to kind of pick up these like over dramatized scenes. And it seems to be something kind of typical in like your slice of life, but I think Bocchi does it incredibly well, and approaching different styles, because they do this weird like claymation motifs every now and then, and
there was an array. There was definitely an array. It was just really cool. We'll have to...
It's good humor. But music ended up being a pretty fun topic, having each an eclectic taste of their own. Nijika interested in Japanese punk, which kind of didn't seem to fit. She seems so happy-go-lucky. Ryu listening to like some weird, I think she said something like Saudi Arabian charts, and Bocchi anything on the more melancholy side, definitely like your emo kid. She spirals into an oblivion whenever she listens to, I can't remember what they called it. It was like Saichi
something
music,
like that.
or anything that's like happy-go-lucky, like school experience motifs, but which I get it. Back in my emo days, that was definitely me. But their conversation ends up leading towards the lack of a vocalist, and Bocchi's immense hatred for music with feel-good lyrics landed her the role of writing their next song. So they're like, well, of all of us, you seem to care the most, so you lucked out. And then they introduce quotas. So they have to sell a certain amount of tickets. If they don't, it comes out of their pocket. Which I don't know if that's how things are. If it is, it sounds stressful.
Oh yeah, but it makes sense. That practice makes sense.
Yeah. Fill up your venue, or you're paying for my wasted time. So unfortunately, their lackluster performance won't bring any of those people back. So this leads to them all getting jobs, which Nijika and Ryu were already working at Starry, so they kind of rope Bocchi in, which causes a full-blown panic attack. And Nichijou's like, oh, we'll work here. It'll be fun, and did not make her feel any better. But I think putting yourself in those situations is the only, well, not going to be the only way, but I think putting yourself in a situation where you have to interact with people is going to be what would help you break that shell faster than anything else. I was pretty socially awkward as a kid and doing retail and things like that. had me move past that. So I think it's a good thing for her.
Yeah.
But despite desperate to get out of work, Bocchi tried to get sick with an ice bath, and then she's like sitting in front of a fan, and did not work out. So she nervously makes her way to her first shift, and this is when we're introduced to the manager, and also Mijika's sister, who she's also kind of the stoic type, but Bocchi gets tasked with the drinks, and her pride in herself for already making her way into the restaurant industry so quickly dissipates immediately whenever customers first arrive. Because initially she's like, wow, look at me, I'm really shooting up there.
Yeah. So fast, so much growth so fast.
Yeah. So she resorts to hiding under the bar while she serves the drinks.
Just hand them up from beneath the bar. Which
is pretty funny. And she ends up really giving it to herself for her lack of self-development in her first shift. And a band comes up, I think they're called Alexandism, something like that. And it ended up being a nice introspective moment for Bocchi, and a good performance unites the crowd, and it sparks something in Bocchi to improve little by little, because she wants to do that eventually. Mm-hmm. And ironically, she gets sick the next day, which I thought was kind of funny.
Same.
But it seems pretty wholesome so far. Just your run-of-the-mill.
Yeah, but like you had mentioned earlier, the uniqueness of kind of her animated, like, saying, whenever she's kind of
her like inner monologues.
Yeah. And she's feeling some kind of like surprise or whatever kind of emotion. Mm-hmm. So now we're kind of, she finally, after a few days, she recovers from that cold that she inflicted upon herself. And she's ready to return to school and to work. And so we find her, she spends her lunch periods like in seclusion under this like stairwell in the back of the school, I thought that was pretty sad.
It really is.
Yeah.
And she's so happy to be there.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, I found this sweet spot where I can be at home, or like alone, and just feel really at home there. And it's funny, so she kind of retreats there though, after she overhears some classmates talking about a band. She tries to interject and join in the conversation, and she's so excited to do so, and she just announces herself, and they're like, oh, Goto, like, what's up? And she's like,
she like stammers and runs away.
Like just speeds off fast as lightning to her secluded lunch stairwell.
Her lunch hole.
Yeah, exactly, her lunch hole. Yeah. So that was funny. And then there she's kind of sitting and thinking to herself, daydreaming maybe a little bit, just about her future as a famous musician, guitar player. And she overhears a conversation. I don't know if this is like the same girls that she tried to talk to in class or not, but she overhears a conversation that they're talking about another classmate of theirs who can really sing, karaoke style, because she can really sing, and she was also in a band, played guitar in a band. And that piques Bocchi's curiosity a little bit, because she heard, I think that was something that Rio and
they're in desperate need.
Yeah, they're in desperate need of a singer who can also play guitar. So, intrigued, Bocchi kind of follows this girl to her class, and she's like crouching and peeking, spying on her maybe, like through the crack of the door. And it was funny. I was like, I don't know what kind of ninja senses that girl had, but she was like, "Oh, Goto.
This isn't
Goto-san. Yeah, what are you doing here? Are you looking for someone?" And then I love how Bocchi like continues the conversation still through that crack in the door, Yeah. And it wasn't even, I say that, but she didn't continue the conversation too much. She was like, you know, like stammering along, and I thought it was so funny. Rika, that's the girl that she had followed his name, who she had heard was a good karaoke singer and guitarist. She's like, oh, is she beatboxing? And she gives her like a little, you know.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny. And then again, Bocchi just flies off to her seclusion hole. And I think throughout the whole anime we see her kind of do this where like if something happens, she'll kind of like pulls out a guitar and she's like kind of singing to her, like makes up a little song, ad libs on the spot about it. And that's kind of what she was doing. And out of nowhere, Rika's like, "You're pretty good," and of course that surprises Bocchi. And she's like, "Oh, you heard that? What are you doing here?" Mm-hmm. And they get to talking, and
she's like, "I could use a guitar teacher."
Yeah, she's like, "You got to join our band."
Mm-hmm.
And Rika's like, "Oh, well, I can't because I can't really play guitar." Mm-hmm. You know, and I think here is when she kind of Bocchi. I think Rika suggests like, "Why don't you teach me?" And so they agree to that, and after school they're headed to Starry. Mm-hmm. Now, oddly enough, unbeknownst to Rika at the time, we find out a little bit later as they're walking there, and Rika's kind of like, I've been here before, like I've been in this area, and she realizes where Bocchi's taken, and she's like, we can't go anywhere, like we have to turn back now. You cannot tell these people that you saw me here.
Yeah, but of course Nijika is coming.
Here she comes. Yeah, here she comes strolling along, and she's like, "Oh, Rika, what are you doing?" And turns out Rika is the band member who ditched Rio and Najika, and that's why that Bocchi was her replacement. So they end up all going back to Starry, and Rika kind of gets to explain herself a little bit. Mm-hmm. That the only reason she even joined the band in the first place was to get closer to her senpai, Rio, and then she couldn't really play guitar. But yeah, I thought that, so I didn't really see that coming. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. I like how they kind of integrated. Rika into that. She, the one who left, she now comes back, and she's gonna be pretty much joining the band again. I think that's just a pretty cool dynamic.
It is.
But Rika is, she feels terrible for ditching them in the first place, and she insists on making it up to them. So Najika's sister / manager, she's like, "It's gonna be pretty packed tonight. Why don't you stay and help us?" Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, for whatever reason, Rika is now in a maid's uniform.
Yeah.
And she is in it that whole shift. But she's like super bubbly personality. Mm-hmm. Super charismatic. Yeah, exactly. Textbook extrovert, and so of course she's a hit with everyone there. Everyone loves her, and she's like, "You're perfect here. You fit in." Yeah. So after the event, the group gets to talking more, and of course Bocchi's art. She's told her she'd teach her to play guitar, and so now they're now a band of 4, and Bocchi and Rika kind of struggle through their first lesson. We can see that you can definitely tell that Rika's never touched a guitar before.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Like at the very end, you kind of hear Bocchi get a little solo, you just strumming in there. So nice to hear that.
And Bocchi kind of reminisced on like, I remember those days when I was this bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a good moment, and so Kita she continues to grind out her guitar progress and with Bocchi before their first full band meeting, and the topic of this one is how can we be more band-like, and it was kind of funny because they were all like, "Oh, that's so half-assed."
Yeah.
And the humor in the show really does have a lot of character. It does not take itself seriously at all. But starting with the superficial aspects, they are going to be peddling band merchandise, which are just colored zip ties, because I think Kasoku Band is...
Yeah, it's like Japanese zip tie, yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
And they're discussing a fan club with membership fees and being tasked with easily the toughest job. Bocchi's still working on lyrics for their first original song. And she's trapped in some serious writer's block. She can't figure out how to write for an extrovert or decide the material for the lyrics. And she typically, it's very typical of her, spirals into insanity, and her family eventually put up all these like charms and seals.
There was like watching her, you know, they're not used to seeing her, I guess, until recently, like.
They're completely convinced this is all made up.
Yeah.
Like, Bocchi with friends.
She's like, she's in odd sorts today.
Yeah, their family dynamic is interesting, and I like that they have a little Shiba Inu. But, so the promotional photos is next on their band-like agenda, and this ends up seeming to be a bust when Kita reveals her social media prowess to the group.
Profo, if you will.
Yeah, they love... I don't know. It made me cringe a little bit, but they love.
And did you notice it was in the second episode whenever. Sorry to cut you off here.
No, you're good.
But in the second episode, whenever Bocchi was taking Rika to the story, and Najika had the monster.
Yeah,
it wasn't monster energy. It was like. Monster.
But it was definitely the logo.
Yeah, and it was just funny. And there seems to be little nuances like that throughout the entirety of the show.
But yeah, they really love to like shorten their terms. But Bocchi, immediately overwhelmed at the thought of taking pictures and being out in public, further descends into her internal abyss when recommended her own social media account. And they take I thought it was pretty funny because they were like, well, a god tier profo mid-jump is going to be what we need to do because any god tier anime opening does the same mid-tier, like mid-air jump thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. But they transcend to new tier band-like activities after getting this stage. Getting lost in the excitement of things to come in their band, Bocchi is slammed with the realization that she hasn't prepared anything for their first song. And I start to really appreciate a lot of the animation and the styles they delve into at this point. And there are some fairly funny moments to the show up to this point. But
I think the first time I really noticed it was whenever they're doing the profos and Butch is like, what do you guys think about this wall? And that was like the first time I noticed it. I was like, wait, is that a real stone wall and real foliage, or mixed with like the characters of course are animated, but the background almost looked real on that.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting.
I really
noticed
appreciate
it.
that. Yeah, especially in nature, they make it look so good. But Bocchi seemingly has some lyrics prepared and decides to lean on Ryu's judgment, and they meet at a trendy cafe, which fills her with anxiety once again. Trying to bond after Ryu smashes some delicious looking curry.
Yeah.
Looked so good. And I'm a huge curry guy, but Bocchi struggles to find any common grounds, and Ryu's like, can you just cut to the chase?
She's just ask about
this sucks.
Yeah.
Quickly realizing these lyrics are very generic and not authentic to Bocchi and her style, she urges her to be true to herself rather than write for success. And I think Ryu said that was why she left her last band, because it just felt so superficial.
Mm-hmm.
And this moment honestly did make me laugh, because Ryu kind of cynically was like, think about how funny it'd be for a normie like Rika to sing about being a social outcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is pretty funny. So a sleep-deprived Bocchi arrives next day to Starry with completed lyrics, earning some respect from Ryo because she definitely kept authentic to herself. And this is the first episode their bond as a band and friends really feels like it's developing, and it enjoyable so far, I think.
Heck yeah. That was a fun episode. That's like the first time we get to see them hang out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Out, just
Out and about.
yeah, out and about, out in the world. So I really liked that. But really funny. As we like cut to payday for them.
Oh, always a
and
great day.
They're like, oh, and Butch is like, oh boy, and she's like, what am I gonna buy with my first paycheck? And she kind of goes through like this inner monologue. Is like, I can't exactly remember, but she's
like, am I gonna get a cake for my family?
yeah, am I gonna get this, and this? And then she's quickly brought back to earth whenever Najika's like, well, we need that to meet our quota.
Yeah.
And then immediately Butch
We're
is
working for our deficit.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so that was pretty funny. And so the girls, they talk more about expenses that kind of come with band life.
Mm-hmm.
Najika and Rika talk about getting second jobs to kind of help prepare for the future a little bit. And just in some of those expenses that just come with band life, I guess.
Yeah.
And this just sends Bocchi into a panic.
Oh, yeah.
And she immediately pulls out her phone and starts Googling, like, how much can I get for this organ?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, anything. What kind of loan can I take out?
Yeah. How can I get out of this second job?
Yeah, she's like, anything. I'll do anything. Don't make me get a second job. So love that. Classic Bocchi antics there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, cool moment now. Rio kind of shows everyone the music that she had written, and Najika eagerly goes to set a concert date with her sister / the manager.
Mm-hmm.
Does it ever say her name, like her first name?
It does, like, once, and
I can't remember
it just kind of in one ear out the other for me.
Same. I'm not. It's gonna bug me. I'm gonna like remember it like midnight tonight.
I know.
But anyway, so
they call her manager almost the whole entire time, anyways.
Mm-hmm. And so Najika kind of just is like, well, let's go set the concert date, and she walks up to her sister and she's like, what openings you got for us? And her sister kind of responds with, I'm not just gonna give you a spot.
Yeah, you guys sucked last time.
Yeah, like it was not a good showing last time. And so, of course, obviously, upset by this, Najika storms out, and they all kind of go out to follow her whenever the manager stops Bocchi, and just kind of lets her know, like, hey, I'll give you guys a spot, but you got to audition for it just like everyone else.
Mm-hmm. No special treatment.
Yeah, no special treatment here. You got to earn it. I got bills that need to be paid. I can't be.
Yeah, and you guys aren't going to pay him.
You guys aren't going to pay him. So I thought that was pretty funny. But I think that's pretty cool too. Like, because once they leave, the sister and who is it? I guess another Star employee. I guess who's always there with her.
Maybe she's the owner.
Yeah,
like that's the owner, and then Nijika's sister's the manager, kind of situation.
But yeah, they kind of get to talking, and the manager kind of expresses like, this is gonna be good for them. Like it's gonna kind of build some character.
Yeah.
They need to experience this and realize like they're not just gonna get handed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like they gotta earn it. And so now finally, a winded, out of shape Bocchi finally catches up to the rest of the girls, and they kind of start talking. And this is whenever Bocchi tells them like, "Hey, we just got to audition. That's what we got to do." And they kind of show some resolve, and they're like, "All right, well let's work hard. Let's earn our spot for the concert." And I noticed here that Rika kind of had a little. I can't remember what Najika said something or somebody had mentioned something about Bocchi and Rika kind of holding them back. And Rika was kind of confused, and she kind of had a little inner monologue with herself. She's like, wait, do they not know how good Bocchi really is? Because whenever I had heard her in the stairwell, like, she was so good.
Yeah, because I think at this point they're still basing Bocchi's talents off of that bombed performance.
Yeah. Which is, the fact that they even still have her around is pretty wild. The fact that she wasn't a one and done, she should feel pretty lucky. And so Rika and Bocchi, they're having typical practice sesh, and Rika takes a moment to ask Bocchi to kind of like, well, she really just kind of starts like, hey, I really want to get good, like, I want to give it my all. This whole me trying to be in this band, I want to give it my all. I don't have any regrets. So please stick with me, and keep teaching me. So I don't have any, I can, when it's all said and done, I'll be able to say I left it all out on the stage.
Yeah.
So that was a nice moment. Boom, cut to, we're now back at Starry, and Najika is surprised to see that Bocchi and Rika have donned a new look similar to Rio's. This is pretty funny. They all have like those...
kind of look like the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. They literally look just like the Beatles. They're like all in these black suits, and they all have the same hair. I don't know, like, what would you even call that haircut?
Oh, man. Like a shaggy, like... I would call it a bowl cut.
Yeah, it looks pretty bowl cut-ish. And then... But Najika's kind of like, okay, quit messing around. Let's get to it. So they're just having another typical practice session, the four of them now. And Bocchi kind of starts thinking to herself. We're really just reflecting on like her life before the band, and kind of how just so much has happened so fast. Like she's now got a job. She has a group of friends. They're starting to seem more and more like friends as opposed to just like acquaintance band members. And she's like, I got these people I'm hanging out with every day.
And that she's just in a band.
Yeah, in general, yeah. I'm just kind of thinking, and she's just kind of like, what is growth? You know what? Like, growth is kind of, it's different for everybody. It's not always, and this is something that Rio also, like I mentioned, like growth isn't always measurable. It's not something you can always see and measure. It's different with different people. And as funny as this anime is, I thought that was pretty.
That's a pretty solid.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. Yeah. So they're ready to call it a day. I think Najika kind of could tell that Bocchi wasn't super focused and that she had kind of something on her mind. So Najika calls it a day. And it's like, everyone go get some shut eye because our audition is tomorrow. It's a pretty big day, so let's be prepared. And so Bocchi's taking her typical walk home in the dark. I think it's so funny every time I see her doing that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's really meant to be funny. It's just, I think it's so funny. She's just like, okay, I'm alone and it's dark outside and I'm just gonna, who knows how long I have to walk home. I don't know. It was kind of odd to me. But Najika.
Because they never walk her home. They all like stay and hang out. And they're like, see you.
She's like later. And she just walks home by herself in the dark. So Najika catches up with her and buys her a drink. And she's kind of talking to her like, hey, like, I'm sorry if you feel like you were kind of just dragged into this, which you literally were.
Yeah.
And they kind of start talking a little bit. Najika apologizes if she feels like Bocchi's been kind of rushed into it. And Najika kind of mentions like, I have a dream, like she's like, tells Bocchi like, I know you want to be able to perform in front of X amount of people and be popular. She's like, I still gotta have my own dream and goal, and that's kind of what I'm really trying to prepare for. So, and really just thanks Bocchi for kind of sticking with it.
Yeah.
So here we are on stage, ready for the audition. Bocchi's again kind of thinking to herself, reflecting more, and I thought this was a cool moment. She's kind of thinking to herself, she's like, my intentions are I do want to be popular. I still want to, be like a typical kind of like basic, I want to be in a band to be popular.
Yeah.
But she's also like, but it's more than just me now. It's like, it's the four of us.
I want us to be successful.
Yeah, I want us to be successful. Yeah. And I'm going to try my best. I'm going to overcome whenever I got to overcome so I can help Najika realize her dream. And that was a cool moment. And of course, like, they're kind of starting and playing at this point, and it seems like Bocchi's just kind of thinking to herself during this and reflecting. But yeah, and it's at that moment when she's like, I'm doing this for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
She just starts shredding the guitar.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool moment. She just starts shredding, and the music is really good. And
it is.
It was at this moment I was like, I need to find out who Rika's Japanese voice actor is, because they're my senpai now.
So good, yeah.
They were so good, dude. Like, I was really blown away. So yeah, did you think it was kind of funny, hearing, whenever she starts singing, that voice coming out of Rika's character, it didn't really seem like it fit. Is that something you noticed, or?
Yeah, I think that her voice actor is not the vocalist. I think
because it just she's has this quirky, bubbly voice, and then as soon as she starts singing, it's like, I don't know how to describe it.
It's just smooth.
Yeah, it's so smooth and
very calculated and precise. And,
you can tell they're
talented.
Yeah, talented, extremely talented for sure. But yeah, so they're playing their audition. They're doing pretty good. Of course, Bocchi just kills it, shreds. Probably is because the manager's telling them. She kind of starts off by giving them some constructive criticism, but she's like, "But I know who you guys are now, so you got a spot."
Mm-hmm.
And then she makes a point to tell Bocchi, like, "Hey, you did really good up there."
Yeah, that was honestly really. The manager really, in several moments in the show, takes the time to really gas up Bocchi.
Mm-hmm.
You were doing good. I see you.
Yes, I see you. You were doing good, and she did. She shredded. So that was cool.
I loved the dam scene of her throwing up, and they just show all this footage of dams breaking.
Yeah, that was funny. So immediately after their audition, I guess after her adrenaline is ran out, she's hold up, and you can tell she starts throwing up, and like Austin mentioned, I don't even know how to describe it really. It was just funny, the dam scene where it shut all these different dams. You could tell she's throwing up. It was just funny.
Yeah, very quirky,
unique. Yeah, I appreciate it.
The animation in their performances are kind of nice because they're all kind of doing their own things. Everyone's swaying, and it's nice to see the crowd jumping around.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels weird. It almost feels like CGI. I don't think it's...
No, so whenever it shows Bocchi solos and it just shows her hands, I'm like, that is so CGI. Mm-hmm. And which is fine, whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what things
it wasn't to. But it wasn't always smooth. I feel like if I'm noticing it, it's
taking you out.
Yeah, it's taking you out a little bit. But I mean, it was fine.
So halfway through, we hit a recap. Which, if you've watched our last episode, we really
I got it on this episode. I felt a disturbance in the forest, and I was like, Austin's not gonna. He's gonna feel some type of way.
Here's a recap. Yeah. They did it much more tastefully than Wonder Egg did. It was brief. Honestly, I still feel unnecessary. But I mean, I binged it, so
yeah.
I didn't need one, but that doesn't speak for everybody.
Yeah, but definitely. Also, I knew Austin he's gonna tap into his PTSD from the Wonder Egg for sure.
So I had to bring that up. So Bocchi tasked with 5 tickets for her quota, and she keeps going, Mom, Dad, Sister, Dog.
Yeah.
That's 4. And she just keeps chanting it to herself.
She's like, one more.
Which is funny. So she starts talking to her family about it, and they're like, well, for one, we can't bring the dog. Dogs aren't going to be able to go there, and your sister's far too young to be going to a place like that. Yeah. And so there's kind of a jab at her ego because her sister is like, oh, well, who are you going to bring then? You don't have any friends. Yeah. And Bocchi just puffs herself up, and she's like, I'll take my friend. I'll ask my friends from school. Yeah, and I don't need you guys.
It kind of annoyed me this part because the mom was like, well, I'll ask some of my friends from work, and see who we can bring. And Bocchi's like, no, I don't need you to do it. Yeah, you know what? She's like, I have my own friends. Mm-hmm. I have my own people.
Yeah, screw you guys.
Yeah.
Whereas we're met with the rest of Kosoku Band, and they've easily met their quota. And a panicked Bocchi crosses paths with a character I come to enjoy. Just a random, belligerently drunk woman in the park who she has to resuscitate her with water, and she got her miso soup and all these other things, and she immediately pounds boxed socket
Yeah.
and like a 40, so she's really getting hair of the dog. And proceeds to talk to like a statue, and she's just out of it. But it turns out our drunken friend is in an indie band herself, causing Bocchi to blow a fuse, and she's like, oh, like, she's obviously going to be aggressive towards me. She's in a band, she knows what she's doing, I don't, and definitely not the case. And she even notices her guitar, and she's like, oh, you're a guitarist? And she's like, no, I'm actually going to go pawn this.
Right now.
Yeah, right this instant.
I don't know why. That kind of bothered me. I don't know why. I really do not know why. It shouldn't have bothered me as much as it did. It just annoyed me how much he's like, I've never touched this. I've never played this. Or maybe I'll try it once. I'm going to go pawn this right now. You know, and I was just like, but you're being annoying kind of right now.
Yeah. And
That's me, though. That's just me.
this drunken lady, she actually gives her a sincere tip of like, just persist. Like, you don't have to sell it today. Hold on to it for a minute and see where it goes. So, receiving this sincere piece of advice, Bocchi caves in, and
she's like, everything I said right now was just a lie.
Yeah. and then they start to bond and proceed with an adventure to the pub, because it was kind of funny. She was like, yeah, my bass is more important than my life. And she's like, oh, really? Where is it? Oh, I left it at the pub I was at drinking last night. And we kind of get an idea onto her drinking habits, which is kind of sad, to be honest. She's in this like perpetual happiness cycle of, or happiness spiral, I think is what she calls it, that she keeps herself in to avoid stressful thoughts of everyday life, which is...
They said it like in such a joking manner, and there's like a diagram. I was like, it's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's kind of real, man.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely how people get through that stuff. And after a scenario in Bocchi's head, imagining herself as an alcoholic, which panicked her. She's like, I should not do this. Her drunken friend decides to help her out and selling her tickets by throwing a street concert together. And before starting their performance, the bassist gives Bocchi some great insight on her fear of people, and she's like, hey, like, these people, they aren't your enemies. I don't know why you're so scared of them.
Yeah.
And this really clicks with Bocchi, because she's like, you're right. I don't know why I'm looking at these people these ways. So this finally clicks, and some gears start moving with Bocchi, and she kills her performance. She gets some confidence, and she started playing with her eyes closed. And to our drunken bassist friend, it looked like she opened her eyes, but she just had one eye open.
Yeah.
So she's halfway there. But Bocchi just pleased with herself at the crowd responding. But on top of that, hitting her ticket quota, and she got a couple fans that have persisted through the rest of their performances, which is kind of sweet. But our drunken friend copping the last ticket.
Yeah.
So she's showing some good growth at this point. You know, she's like, good for her. I couldn't just plug in an amp and start playing on the side of the street. So
So I mean, it's really big for Bocchi,
especially for someone like her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a nice moment. So here, I'm very excited to talk about this here, because I think this is my favorite episode of the entire show right here. So it's summer. We're like in the beginning of summer now. It seems like summer is in full effect, and Balmy, Najika, and Rika are on their way to. They're braving the heat, and they're taking a walk to Bocchi's house. Which is, I mean, for the first time. It's those two girls being at their house for the first time.
Or at Starry, or they've never met. Yeah.
They never really hung out outside of Starry in general, except for a few times. So they're on the way to Bocchi's, which I'm like, I can't even believe Bocchi invited them to her house.
I know.
But anyway, so the duo, they're headed there, and they're really just going over there to talk about t-shirt designs, and they all have like some sketch pads, and Najika has like an iPad that she's gonna she kind of does her designs on. So they're all coming over there to come up with their own idea. And so Rio, of course, she's not going there. She had told some lie about
her grandmother
being in a critical condition. Najika even takes a moment to mention, like, this is like the 10th time this year her grandmother is in
critical condition.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously she was lying about it, but whatever. It's kind of just her personality to do something like that anyway.
Oh yeah.
So so Najika and Rick, they have no idea what to even expect of Bocchi's house. They're kind of talking about it on the way there. But they finally arrive, and they're greeted with there's like a massive banner across the house. It's like, welcome members of, was it?
Kasoku Band.
Kasoku Band, yeah.
I hope this visit brings brings comfort to your heart and your soul or something.
And so they're greeted by Bocchi, who was in the most random getup I've ever seen. She's like these neon star glasses, and she's like a sash that says
Sergeant for a Day.
Yeah, Sergeant for a Day, and a party hat.
And like that mustache.
Yeah, the classic
like
cartoon mustache. Yeah, and so then that was just wild. But so the three of them head up to Bocchi's room, which has also been strangely decorated.
Uh-huh.
And I was just so random. It was funny though. You could tell Bocchi has no idea what she's doing. It's like years and years of just wanting, like, suppressing the urge to invite people over and decorate, and she just lets it all out at once, and it's just a mess.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So Bocchi had done to get some refreshments, and during that time, Bocchi's little sister and the Futori, Bocchi's little sister, and then the dog. What kind of dog was it again?
The Shiba Inu.
Yeah, the Shiba Inu.
Jima Hine or
whatever. Yeah, Jimmy Hine or whatever. They just welcomed themselves into the room and quickly are acquainted with Najika and Rika. So Bocchi comes back and is like, okay, what's going on? She's like, you gotta go. And then, even though her bandmates are kind of like, oh no, we don't mind, but Bocchi's like, no.
How can I compete with them?
Yeah, she's like, get out. So they leave, and they kind of finally start to work on the t-shirt designs. And so, of course, Rika's the first to finish, and she, like, pulls up her paper, and it's like this hot pink, it definitely matches her personality. Like,
yeah.
Her design is bright and positive as her personality.
Mm-hmm.
And Bocchi kind of mentioned, she's like, this gives me, like, sports festival vibe. And then out of nowhere, like, triggers some trauma for Bocchi. And she just talks about how much she hates sports festivals and how just wild hate for it. And the different, like, scenes.
So funny.
Yeah, like, so funny. And yeah, I don't even know how to just, like,
indescribable, really. Different art styles. I think at one point she was, like, tied up to a log and about to be burned alive. Like, so dramatic.
Yeah, just extremely dramatic. And I feel like at one, like, there's even there's like a Bocchi like action figure, but it was like a real world, like, like
reminded me of something in, like, Chowder or, like, The Misadventures of Flapjack, where they have that, like, a real item.
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting and fun to see. It kind of went on for a long time. I would say, like,
it was like 4 solid minutes of, like, this dissension in a match.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, like, that's kind of over the top, but it was uniquely done, and it was funny. But, like, I was kind of like, okay, let's get back to some t-shirt designs.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they finally get Bocchi to calm down, and they're interrupted again, this time by Bocchi's parents, her mother and father. And I thought this was pretty funny. So they kind of introduced themselves, and they're like, we are so happy. We didn't think you guys were real.
Yeah. They really roasted
They went in on Bocchi. And
yeah, we saw this picture, but photo editing software has gotten really good lately, and they could not believe it.
So that was pretty funny. for several minutes. They're just going in on her, but they are talking about how pleased that Bocchi kind of has some friends now. And
in a weird way, it was sweet.
Yeah.
In a
Because
very
they
genuine
were
way.
trying to be mean, you know. They were that excited, you know. And it was cool though. There was like this. Her parents served like this 6-star,
delicious spread.
8-course meal, you know. Like it was. I was like, I need to get over to their house
I know.
because that food looked really good though. Of course, it's like classic anime. Like they
The food always looks
yeah,
top notch.
40% of their budget was on this scene right here.
Yeah.
You know, so but kind of, so they I think they kind of talked about watching a movie and playing some games, and then finally after all the fun, they're finally again about to start working on their t-shirt
Like,
designs.
what, we haven't done this yet.
They're like, we literally just spent all that time playing games and watching movies and hanging out. But so they're finally working on their t-shirt designs again, and my favorite moment of the whole anime right here
So funny.
is whenever Ryu texts Najika and she's like, and Najika's like, oh, Ryu just texted me with her t-shirt designs, and she opens the messages and it's just like a plain white t-shirt with just like a awfully cropped plate of food on.
It's not. The picture of the food overlaps the
Yeah.
shirt too. There was
Yeah.
no effort in it at all.
Yeah. And then on the final t-shirt, I was like, what should I have for dinner?
It was so funny.
And Najika's just, you know, eye roll, okay, back to real work. And then, of course, Riku's over there like, you know.
Oh, they're like, don't humor.
She's like,
her.
don't respond. What are you doing? So, first of all, I do want to say, Bocchi shows her t-shirt design. I thought Bocchi's t-shirt.
I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought it rolled,
It
dude.
was punk rock.
I was like,
Yeah.
Bocchi's t-shirt rules for sure. It was like red punk rock, the zippers
Zippers
on,
everywhere.
and the zippers were like practical. She's like, I thought we could put our guitar picks in here.
And the chain is like, we could use
Guitar
it as
strap.
a strap, and they're like, wow, how functional.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. But they're back to practice several days later, and the group ends up going with Najika's basic t-shirt design.
Yeah, she had it in her pocket all along.
Yeah, the whole
and they're
time.
like, why didn't we just...
But I mean, like, it was super basic design, like black t-shirt, so
like a Soku band,
Yeah, Soku band.
and then the zip tie.
yeah, so I mean, super basic, but it gets the job done. So I thought it was strange here. They kind of have like so like they unveil the t-shirts and they have a practice session, and then oddly enough, so there's mention of like a typhoon. Like one of them got like a alert or something, weather alert.
Mm-hmm.
It's like typhoon. That's odd. And then they're like, oh, actually, it's not gonna hit our area. Whatever. This is like so. Then it's kind of like, okay, it's over with.
And Bocchi, she was kind of nervous. She's like, I don't want this performance to bomb.
Mhm.
So let's go make some rain charms.
Yeah, let's make some rain charms. You know, so they're doing that for a little bit, and then at the end of the episode, we just see like a quick like storm. You know, like boom, winds blowing, rain's falling, storms are brewing. Absolutely. And so that's kind of where we were left off there. But this is my favorite episode of the whole anime.
It was a great episode, honestly. I think it showcased the. If you want to showcase the character of the show in one episode, it would be that one for
Yeah.
sure. Between the humor
Dude,
and the very fun animation styles and
Rio definitely solidified herself as my favorite character. Absolutely.
I think she's my favorite character too. So getting back into it, Typhoon, unfortunately, regardless of the charms, is in full swing. The crowd, stingy. I think it's half what they expected it to be.
Which just to be expected. I mean, it's literally
It's a
like,
typhoon.
Yeah.
It's like going out during a tornado warning.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do that. But Bocchi's fans from her street performance did end up showing, along with her drunken mentor. And Bocchi's floored by the fact that she has fans,
Mhm.
which was a good moment for her because morale starts getting kind of dicey between the bands. So they're trying to kind of keep their head straight. But their first true 4-band member performance is about to begin, and a small crowd starts diminishing their spirits, and the lack of crowd enthusiasm is really throwing everyone into a funk because people start kind of getting off and making mistakes that they didn't during their rehearsals. And their first song, honestly, it sucked. And well, I mean, they said it. I thought it was enjoyable. I liked the music in this show. But determined for a better performance, Bocchi takes charge, and before their second song, she just starts shredding with a solo, and then it gets them right into the song, and they end up getting good crowd response.
An original song with music by Ryu, and then these are Bocchi's lyrics now. Or is this what they do in an original song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, and that was a pretty cool song. I thought
it was. I dig the anime. Like the intro's good, the outro's good. I like their original songs.
Yeah.
I think it's all enjoyable, but they end up earning some applause and some positive crowd reaction because during the first song, I mean, everyone was on their phones, no one was paying attention.
Yeah, and they were audibly like, yeah, this first band, we should have came later. This band sucks.
So after the fact, we finally learn the identity of our the elusive drunken mentor, Kikuri. And we even get a half compliment from the manager towards the band, which is just a nice moment altogether. So they decide celebration's in order, let's go out for drinks. And amidst all the fun, the thoughts of Bocchi's future spirals her into another Bocchi episode.
Yeah.
And she has this deep-rooted fear of what a normal life would look like for her, and it leads to alcoholism again, and she's like, I need to make a career out of being a musician. And it's interesting that she keeps coming back to like this scenario of her just being an alcoholic. It reminds me of Rudius's room whenever he was in his original form, because there's like trash everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Just like truly a shut-in. So Bocchi's mentor urges her to allow the weight of her desires to kind of roll off her shoulders and like enjoy your time now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's good advice for Bocchi in particular, because she's very quick to get lost in these small little things and really obsess over anything that goes wrong. But while everyone's kind of having a good time, Nijika, she steps outside, and that Bocchi kind of picks up on that, so she follows her out, and they end up having a nice moment together. Nijika, she always keeps an eye out for Bocchi. She goes out of her way to like thank her for things or check on her. So it's nice to see that come full circle, because Bocchi felt inclined to do the same for her. And calling out Bocchi for not only being guitar hero, but being the hero of the night. So Nijika put two and two together.
I was like, finally, it was really bugging me.
I know. And she got some credit for pulling the group through their trials each and every time. And she said, you're Bocchi the Rock. So she's like, you're the rock of the band, Bocchi, which is really nice.
That was a nice sweet moment.
Yeah. Hence the
Rock.
name. Yeah. So a moved Bocchi commits to help make the band be the best it could be. Like, I'm taking you guys with me wherever, whatever height I end up at, it's with all of you. And their friendship's honestly pretty wholesome. And we even get some manager backstory about how she was in a band and she kind of, I think her mom died? Or their dad died and their mom just wasn't very present, so...
Or vice versa.
One way or another. But, so the manager kind of had to... It seems like she chose to give up the band life to be that supportive figure in...
Which is sweet.
Nijika's life.
Because she kind of comes off like this cold...
Yeah, doesn't care about anything, anyone. So, interesting backstory we get here. And just kind of a wholesome, feel-good episode.
Like. Absolutely. All right, so at this point, it's middle of summer. So, we see Bocchi's in a room. We see the calendar. It's like, what is it, like... I
think it's like the beginning of August.
Yeah, it's like... the beginning of August. That sounds about right. And Bocchi's like, shoot, like, summer's going to come to an end quick, and I want to enjoy every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like it shows the calendar again, and she spent like the last 4 days just sitting in her room playing guitar.
Doing what she always does.
Yeah, she's like, shit. She's like, shoot. And so this episode kind of, the beginning, I was kind of sad a little bit, because just seeing, like, Bocchi was bummed that, like, they have not hung out all summer, the group.
Yeah, she made sure her schedule was clear.
Yeah, and that was another thing.
For
She's like,
maximum hangout time.
yeah, she's like, I'm gonna make sure my schedule's clear, but
That was really sad.
even though she's like, not that I would have anything to do anyway, but I'm making a point for it to be clear, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really sad. No one's hit her up.
Yeah, and she's not going to be the one to be like,
Yeah.
hey guys, because she doesn't. She's like, well, if I ask
can't-
everyone, the stress of making the plans is on me, and I don't
She
want
cannot handle that.
that. No.
And so we see this, like, she's like depressed, like laying on the floor watching this, like, science video.
It's like a
talking
theory
about-
of relativity or
Yeah.
something.
They're like, yeah, just watching that whole thing. I kind of thought that, like, that was a little bit strange. I know it played into like the episode, but I'm not smart enough to, to get it really. But anyway, so now we're fast forwarded to the last day of summer, and they're all at the club, and the manager's kind of like, well, so I guess Rika's kind of like, she's like, Bocchi's in odd sorts today. She's in odd form today.
She was like making cicada.
Yeah, she's making cicada grapes.
grapes.
Yeah, and the manager's like, hey, one of y'all go get a hold of her.
She can't be doing this in front of the business.
Yeah, but then that's whenever they realize, they're like, wait, we have not hung out all summer. And I mean, I get, like, it's not like none of them did it intentionally.
It just didn't.
They're all busy. Like, everyone's kind of, everyone has their own lives. They're just busy. And so
She has this like tremendous purple aura like coming off of her. It was funny.
and so I mean, so they kind of, like, they're like a last ditch effort. Like, hey, let's go to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of them's like, I think maybe Ryu's probably like, it's too late to even swim. And Bocchi's like, yeah, what's the point of going to the beach if it's too late to swim? But like, hey, let's just go anyway. Let's make it a day to remember. Let's have some fun. And so they hit the train, and like Bocchi's just like in this state of like, she's like so mad, so fearful that she's gonna have to start school up again soon. She's just like on a roller coaster of emotions, and she's like in this just funky, unconscious
Like a trance
state. Yeah, just like sitting there the whole train ride to the beach. It's kind of pretty funny seeing her there. And then, like, so boom, they're finally there. As soon as they step foot on the beach, there's these these typical classic beach bros,
yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And so they just run away from them, and they're just kind of casually chatting, and they kind of got a little snack. Did you catch what they were snacking on?
It was like a takoyaki,
Yeah.
like those octopus balls, but like flattened
Yeah.
and like massive.
I was like, I wonder how that is.
I love takoyaki.
Yeah, I think you actually you treated me to that first time not too long ago.
Yeah, so
It's
good.
pretty good. But yes, so they're snacking on those, and this was pretty funny. So it's like they've been there for all of 7 minutes, and they just chatted a little bit, got to takoyaki, had taken one selfie, and then Bocchi's like in tears, like, "Thank you guys.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this. This was so much fun."
Completely other side of the emotional spectrum she
Yeah.
was on.
Yeah, and then like, hey, we're just getting started. But yeah, so she definitely snaps out of the funk and that she was in, and I think this is Rika she has the idea. She's like, let's take this hike up these many steps to the top of this.
And they're all like beat.
Yeah, it's like this Shima shrine, and they're all like, no, but she like uses her superpower of
Call it like Rika aura or something.
like just extreme positivity and extrovert powers, and just manipulates them to start the trek.
How can we say no?
Yeah, and so they're up a whole 2 flights of stairs, and they're just like collapsed, breathing. Bocchi's in last place, just army crawling up the steps, and they see some escalators, and much to Rika's dismay, they decide to take the escalators. Of course, Ryu cons Bocchi into paying her fare.
That dynamic's so funny to me because Ryu comes from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
She just blows her allowance, so she's always broke. I think there's one point where Ryu has to pay some money, and she's like, "Well, if I give you this money, I have to eat weeds. Like that's all I can do." And it just shows her like eating weeds.
Yeah, I think that's actually before they go to the cafe. Where they talk about her,
Because that's why she ended up having to pay for her curry.
She's like, I couldn't do another day eating weeds. Yeah, that was funny. So they take the escalators up, and then it was funny. So like they get to the top, and then Ryu and Najika are kind of talking like, "Hey, I feel different up here." They're like, "Yeah, it's the power of the ambiance. Like it's just doing something to us." It's just the power of being up here. And so I think this is our first and only selfie we see, first and only picture we see where Ryu and Bocchi are, all smiles. So that was pretty funny. Like you if that's how they're acting, they're definitely in. There's some magic going on.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. So they actually end up going to like this tower kind of thing. And it was pretty funny because, Rika's just like basking in it, taking it all in. And then they're like, "Oh, that AC in the elevator was crazy. Like, okay, I'm ready to go back down."
Yeah, they're like, that AC was the best part of this hike.
Yeah. So she's like, "Okay, they're like, oh, let's go back down." And so there's kind of like in this little rest area, and they're snacking on some soft serve. Of course, this is Rio's second helping. And it's funny. So Bocchi like hears the sound. She's like, "What is?" She's like, "What's that sound?" And then as they're talking, as Najika's like, "Must be those kites." Literally, as they're talking about it, one just swoops down, takes her ice cream. This scene was so random. This scene was so random. So then like the kite that takes the ice cream comes back with like 6 friends, and they all just start like jumping Bocchi.
So funny.
It is so random. Like it was funny, but it was just so random and out of place.
It really was.
And then there's like this Dragon Ball Z crater in the ground.
Yeah, she was like smoke was coming off of her.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But so then they decide to start their trek back down, but not before they go to the shrine. It's the goddess. Is the goddess? I think they call it Muon Benzaiten? Something like that.
We're butchering it, but
yeah,
the goddess's shrine.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is actually this is the goddess of music and performing arts. So of course they're going to stop and pray at this shrine.
And they like the fact that it was a goddess because it's an all-girl band.
Yeah.
So they were like, we definitely gotta pay her a visit.
Oh yeah, and it's funny. So we kind of just assume they're all praying about their band and whatnot. And they talk about how they even mentioned how Bocchi took a particularly long time.
Yeah.
And Najika's kind of like, "Oh, I just of course I prayed about our band and blah blah blah." And Bocchi kind of like has a moment to herself. She's like, "I was praying for the clock to wind back to the beginning of summer. Like I don't want to." She's like, "I'll give anything to come back to day one of summer. I'm not ready to go back to school." But so the girls are back on the train, chatting it up. Bocchi's actually fully conscious and aware this time, and it's just they're just headed back to town, and that was just a cool episode. Almost filler-esque, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's no real progress made.
Your obligatory feel-good summer episode.
Yeah, exactly. But it was funny. It was cool. So random seeing Bocchi get attacked by those.
Yeah, that was
those kites.
Probably one of the more random moments of this show. And it was kind of funny because Bocchi's like, "Okay, I think after today I'm ready to go back to school," and then immediately, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty funny. But all in all, good episode.
Yeah. And this one was it was interesting because Bocchi's in like a daze, and she's like in and out of consciousness, and she has this clearly a mental split between her desires to impress her classmates at the culture festival, because I think she's talked about this a couple times in the show about how she wished she did this in middle school, It comes up in this episode for sure.
Yeah, because I guess like the ending of the last one, they kind of like the ending scene is like them back at school, just a quick pan, and then we see we leave off on seeing the flyer for the culture festival. Yeah.
And how they need a band to perform, and so she like wakes up and she's in front of like the student council room, and she's like, "What's this paper in my
How did
hand?"
I get here?
Oh, I've completed a form for my band to perform in the culture festival. And she like keeps going in and out of it, and she ends up passing out again, and she wakes up to the infirmary, and Kita's next to her, and she was like, "Oh God, I hope she didn't see that form, because if she sees that and I tell her I had even the slightest intention of doing this, she's gonna opt me right in." And she's still struggling. Well, Kita eventually, she dismisses her. She's like, "Oh, I'm fine. Like, I'm sure you have plans with friends." And she's like, "Well, I could always cancel." And she's like, "No, I'm fine." And she's still struggling with the thoughts of performing in front of her peers. It's something she really dwells on for like the next day, reflects on it in her sleep. And she even confides in the manager, who immediately outs her intentions to Ryo and Nijika. And the band supports her decision either way, which is kind of nice. I think they know better than to force Bocchi into doing anything.
It's funny hearing Ryu tell this, like, her personal story with that.
It's like, I played some really obscure stuff on my bass and completely bombed.
Yeah.
And she even mentions it a couple times. She's like, "Well, if we bomb this time, at least there's 4 of us to share the shame."
Yeah.
But Bocchi, she stews over it all night, and she wakes up the next day strong in her resolve to pass on the experience. You know, I thought about it, don't want to do it. And Kita excitedly announces that she turned the application in.
She's like, your form somehow accidentally was in the trash.
Yeah, I must have accidentally ended up in the trash, so I went ahead and turned it in for you. And Bocchi is devastated. Our drunken mentor, Hiroi, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but drunken mentor enters in like a storm, listening to the group's struggles, and she's like, "Okay, if you want to see like a performance with a big crowd, like I actually have a pretty good following. Why don't you come to my club and watch me perform?" And
so I think she meets him at Starry, and she was like, I think she hands them all tickets, right? And then they're like offering her to pay. She's like, no. And they're like, she's like, "What do you think I am, some broke musician?"
Yeah.
And they're like, and then Butch is like, "Well, you never paid me back for this." And
yeah, the manager actually forces everyone to pay their debt to Bocchi at that moment as well, which was pretty funny. But I ended up really liking this scene in particular, because I really like psychedelic rock. So I thought it was cool that they even touched on
the
visuals.
Genre. Yeah. So it's fun, and of course, like so Ryu is all knowing in all things music. It's like, you know, she's well
versed in all of it.
Yeah. So, you know, she kind of explained a little bit about like this genre in general. And but I knew you were gonna like this episode. I was like, this is Austin's stuff right here. This is his jam. This is his jam.
So the group, honestly, very nervous to be in a new venue and a new environment altogether. And the mentor shows them around her club. I think it's called the Folt. And we meet a new colorful cast of characters, as well as the rest of the band. Sick Hack.
Sweet name.
Yeah, and honestly pretty cool.
That name rules.
Eliza, the guitarist, who she ends up being from like England.
And so I watched it subbed. I'm assuming you watched it dubbed.
I watched it subbed as well.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't. I'm so glad you watched it subbed first.
Yeah.
Of all.
I'm progressing.
So did her? There's just no accent. Because she's like, I lived in England till I was 18.
I know.
And I was like, you have no accent. Like, I don't know.
I think that would have been a nice touch if they
nice
gave
touch.
her some sort of accent.
Absolutely.
And then Shima, the drummer, and very drastically different personalities,
Yeah.
all kind of rounding out the feel of their band.
They even mentioned like, oh, these guys, they must like equalize each other, kind of.
Mm-hmm. And Bocchi's blown away by the band's distinct groove and the overwhelming charisma, the wall, like the foundation that the bass provides, how the guitar kind of floats on top of it.
The visuals were so
It's trippy.
So
it was
good,
really
dude.
cool.
It was awesome.
So I think this is the encouragement that Kosoku Band really needed, because the crowd was big crowd. The crowd was very engaged, and
Like they make actual money off of. They don't have to pay. Like all of Kosoku Band's money goes to the concert, and they get nothing in return. It was like these guys make a living off of this, So it's kind of like a real life experience for them.
And I think Hiroi, she touches on why she's broke all the time, because she gets so plastered that she breaks her band equipment often. But she really starts filling the role as Bocchi's musical mentor as well, constantly giving her encouragement, and at this point gives her a very encouraging speech about her past and how the two of them came from really the same place. She was very similar, very gloomy, an outcast as well, and her mentor's charisma was rooted within, and her personality rooted within the band, and coming out of her shell through getting into music, which was the reason Bocchi got into it altogether. So I think this was a very encouraging speech, and just a good moment. And I also noticed this because I did listen to the sub, but she kept calling her big sister, like Oni-chan.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just kind of sweet. But the band discusses over dinner their plans for their performance, and they want to take an aggressive approach. They want to do all their own material, and we got to give Bocchi a solo. We gotta give her a chance to shine in front of her peers, which I thought was cool.
I'm surprised it's taken this long though.
I know.
Yeah.
So eventually, after the meeting, Kita admits, after I'm sure being just wrapped up in a lot of guilt, that she submitted the application completely knowledgeable of Bocchi's intentions to throw it away. And Bocchi ended up thanking her, to my surprise, for giving her that push to move past these reservations of her social anxieties and just her general stress over it. And that the experiences that she had gotten from this whole entire scenario was well worth all of it, from the concert to the excitement of their first big performance. And I thought this moment probably showcased Bocchi's development the best, because she even acknowledged, like, this was good for me and I grew from this. Yeah, I guess we get to the culture festival and Bocchi's nowhere to be found.
Oh yeah. And so at the end of that episode, it's like we just hear for a second like Bocchi's missing. Like, it's kind of like, I guess it's shown like the next day, and someone mentions like, oh, Bocchi's missing. It kind of, like kind of in like an alarming tone.
Yeah.
So I was
like, did something tragic happen?
I was like, what is going on? I was like, this took such an odd turn.
Yeah.
But of course it just turns out. So I guess Bocchi's classroom. So first of all, I just want to say, every slice of life I've ever seen, like high school slice of life, they always have a culture festival, and they always look like so much fun.
They really do. I wish in Western countries we did anything like that. In my high school experience, we never did anything so cool.
It is not. It's like not a Western kind of thing at all. And so super cool. Like it's just fascinating. And I find myself like, is that really like? Does this because all we have really like is just the shows.
Yeah.
Kind of like animes depicting this, but I'm like, is it really what it's like? Where it's like the whole school, every single classroom has their own unique kind of design and events held there. Because that sounds like so
pretty
much fun.
sweet.
Yeah. So culture festivals rule. But so they had the culture festival, and I guess Bocchi's classroom, they kind of decided to go with like a
Maid cafe.
yeah, like a classic moe maid cafe, and okay, eye roll, whatever.
Yeah, just so typical.
Yeah. But of course, Bocchi, she did not want her bandmates to see her in there.
So embarrassed.
So she runs off. As soon as she puts her maid costume on, and she just kind of feels that overwhelming embarrassment, I guess. She takes off. But so that's all it was. I was like really worried that something happened to her. I thought we were gonna, FBI was gonna get involved and some crazy conspiracy. But no, she just was embarrassed to be seen in that. So obviously her friends are all there to visit. The two, Najika and Rio, actually they go to different schools, so they're visiting. But so the group, the three of them are looking for Bocchi, and it's funny because Rika like leads the investigation. She's like, I know her like recluse habits, so we're gonna look into places where
you can find slugs.
Yeah, she's like she knows all the spots to look.
It was so funny.
It was funny. And so cut to Bocchi, and we kind of see she's hiding in like what looks like the back garbage area.
Yeah.
And so she, of course, the whole reason she ran off is she didn't want to be seen in the maid outfit. And she's kind of just like hanging out there, and she kind of starts. I think she like checks her
like a comment section.
Yeah, comment section of her where she posts all of her Guitar Hero videos, and she's like, I need some escapism, and she's just kind of scrolling through those, and much to her dismay, she sees a couple comments with people unhappy that she's
not posting.
She's not posting as regularly as she used to. She's just been so busy with work and the band now, and I was like, just from Bocchi, how we know her, I was like, she's gonna lose it. Like if she loses, that's like the one thing she has, and I was like, if she loses that as well,
that's like her foundation.
Yeah, that's literally her foundation. So I thought it was odd that she's like, okay, I'm gonna immediately go home and like post something, or like whenever the day's done, I'm gonna be sure to post something. But she never does. Like it kind of doesn't really mention it.
Another seed planted that did not come to fruition.
Yeah. She never really mentions it again. But the three, they find her, and they're headed back into the school. And I'm very glad. So they decided to take a lot of detours and kind of just explore the culture festival and partake in the various like activities and check out the different rooms and play all the games. So
which looks sweet.
It looks
like
so
there's
much
a haunted
fun.
house.
Oh, it looks like so much fun. I want to go to a culture festival. Yeah, so it looked like it was super fun. So Bocchi is now back in her classroom, very loosely participating in the.
Yeah, she's kind of just holding up a sign.
Yeah.
Like she has this like black
she zones
sludge
out.
coming out
Yeah,
of
she
her mouth.
she does her whole thing where she just zones out. She just like zoned out holding the sign. I was like, come on in. So another so red, and I'm like, I'm sure this probably had like there's probably a reference to another anime.
Yeah.
But those two dudes, those two just muscly, jacked, thug-looking dudes come and then just a random scene.
They're like antagonizing her, and they're like, "Wow, her silence means she's not intimidated by us at all. Like you're tough." Like she ended up getting the respect of them by absolutely not even acknowledging.
So now like they're like super submissive like throughout the rest of the show.
It's funny.
Or the rest of this episode anyway. But so she's kind of chatting with her friends, and they're kind of antagonizing her a little bit. They're making her participate in her, in the role as much as they can. She definitely doesn't want to. And so they kind of what is it that they have? It was like the food that's
omu rice.
Yeah,
it's like it looked delicious.
Yeah, it did look good.
It makes me want to try and make one because it's like a delicious mountain of fried rice inside of an omelet.
Oh,
it sounds awesome.
It does.
But it was kind of funny because they had all these different versions of omu rice, and they blew all their budget on the maid outfits, so it was just like, it's all the same like frozen one.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. So they're still kind of chatting, and they mentioned a bunch of like, you look pretty sweet in this maid outfit. You look super cute.
Let's monetize that.
Yeah, and then so that's Ryu's thing. Ryu's like, Yeah, let's monetize that. Let's put you in a swimsuit in one of our music videos. It was pretty funny. There's
Have you like covered in tape or whatever?
Yeah, covered in black tape for the. So that was pretty funny. And then now, so Rika, I guess some of the other the other maids in the classroom, they're like, tell Rika like, hey, you should totally join. Yeah. And then that leads to Najika and Ryu joining, and they're all just killing it. Mm-hmm. They're super versed in customer service, and like they're just killing the game. And even Ryu, like she's not much of a customer service type, but she's doing her own thing. Yeah, she's just exuding alpha, exuding her status as an alpha, and because the big muscly guys asked her for some water, and she's like, you can come get it yourself, and she just like pours it. It's funny. Yeah, and so they definitely steal the spotlight. Not that it was ever shining very brightly on Bocchi, but they steal the show. And so finally the main cafe is over. I don't know, it just didn't seem like there's a whole lot of point to it. And I don't know that there was supposed to be, but it just it was it's like half the episode for this. Yeah. So okay, now that's over. And the girls take off to practice, and but before that they stop by the gym. They're headed out, but then Enrique's like, I want to get one look at where we're going to be performing at. So they do that, pretty big gymnasium, and they just kind of envision like there's going to be a lot of people here. So they kind of have some monologue amongst themselves kind of about that. Some mental prep. And so that they're about to start practicing, they get a good, they get this good jam session in. And I can't remember exactly what was said, but did you notice? They're like blushing at Rika and Bocchi were like you noticed that? Each other. Yeah, I did. I was like, you're like, what's going on here? So I can't remember what they said, but they said something, and then Rika was like, "You're just so never mind. Like, forget about it." Yeah. And then they're like blushing at each other, and I was like, "What's going on happening here? What's unfolding?" So that was interesting. So now it's the day of the concert, and we just kind of see them backstage, kind of just talking amongst themselves, prepping, waiting for their name to be called, and they all express their excitement. They also express they're a little bit nervous, but they're ready to go. So their name gets called. They're now on stage, and of course everyone's like Rika Chan, yeah, because she's so popular. Yeah, she's like super popular, and Bocchi's kind of like exactly what I expected. Yeah, but then we see it's a super sweet moment. Where we see Bocchi's family, but they're so proud with a camcorder. It's like brand new camcorder he bought for this occasion. And even the little Futuri, she's like. They had a little. They had a little fan of the dog, which I thought was funny. I didn't even notice that. That's funny. I didn't notice that. That's a nice touch. The dog was there in spirit. Nice touch. And then we see the two fans that she had made on the street, street concert performance, and then we see the big sister role and the manager there, and of course I thought this was funny too. She's like this is such an occasion that I decided to bring this glass. I'm guessing it was I got the glass socket this time, and it was funny because in my head I was like, okay, this is literally a school. Yeah. And then it's funny because right after I thought that, one of the girls was like, I don't know if she should be here. One of the girls in the crowd. Yeah, because people around her were like, you reek of alcohol. Yeah. So, but that was the last moment. That was really that moment right there made my nails kind of started burning and my eyes. And I was like, man, because she noticed that. Those people that were fans now. Yeah, those were people. They were there to see her specifically, and she just never really experienced anything like that. And she definitely noticed it and appreciated it, and was taking it in. So, super nice moment there. That almost got me. It was a good moment, and so we kick it off with their performance, and Bocchi is blown away by their reaction. Their hard work's paying off, and after their first song, Bocchi snaps a string, and one of her pegs stopped working. So not only is one string completely out of commission, but another is out of tune to the point where she really shouldn't use that one either. So she starts panicking because they gave her a solo, and how am I going to play this solo with 4 strings on my guitar working? And so
I thought this was pretty interesting. She really rolls with it, and she grabs that glass and she starts playing like a slide style of guitar. So her being out of tune didn't matter anymore because it was just like a spectrum.
It was also cool because Rika had started. She was just kind of like ad-libbing on her own because she like hit the.
It was like a supportive moment. Yeah, she saw that something was wrong,
and so she who's like not even very like she's just learning, a couple months in. But she had the presence of mind to do that. That was cool. And like you said, Bocchi also finding like quick thinking, started playing the bottom. It was just cool.
It was cool. It was an interesting stylistic choice, and so great improv, and then another stellar finish to their second song. And the crowd even commented on Bocchi and her prowess and her skill for picking that up.
They're like, you killed it, even though it was so specific.
Yeah, they knew that. Yeah, it was. It was like no one watching a concert would actually know. She snapped a string and did that all on the fly.
Yeah.
So they were like, speech, and I thought this was funny.
I thought this was so funny and odd because I was like, Rika, Bocchi has crippling social anxiety.
Yeah,
and you're asking her to,
So instead of giving a speech, she goes for like a crowd surfing moment and just eats that floor. And their concert, unfortunately, ending a song early.
Someone get a teacher. And it just shows Bocchi on the ground.
But back at the infirmary, Kita and Bocchi have another moment. Bocchi commending Kita for her process, and sadly, the culture festival comes to an end, and Bocchi fervently apologizes for breaking her father's guitar back at home, and he actually complimented her instead and encouraged her to buy a new guitar. With her Guitar Hero money that they just happened to have set aside this whole entire time conveniently. Because they apparently I'm just gonna say this is YouTube, but I guess the YouTube account that she used is their family account, so they like monetized it without her knowing. And so she ended up with like 300,000 yen.
He's like, here's 300,000 yen.
Yeah, she's like, what shady stuff have you been doing, Dad? Just kind of funny. She was super jazzed about this new stack of cash, and she was even like, if I only spend 100,000 on my guitar, I don't have to work anymore.
She's like, I can pay for my quotas for like the next 2 years.
Yeah, so she ends up going to work the next day with like this Super Saiyan aura around her.
That was fine.
Super jazzed about being able to quit her job, and once she actually goes to the manager, she instead commits to being the best employee ever and completely flakes.
Yeah.
I get it though. It's
even after her Super Saiyan, she's like, full Super Saiyan moment, and then she just totally shuts down.
Yeah.
I love how her hair, she had the yellow aura around her, and her hair was floating and dude, that was funny.
So the band eventually accompanies Bocchi on her quest for a new guitar. And she landed on a pretty sweet Yamaha guitar. Apparently it was custom made. Mm-hmm. The person who worked at the shop was like, yeah, I personally tended to this guitar every single day. And the style in the instrument store was really cool. It was another moment in which I really noticed that they probably took pictures of an actual music shop and
dude,
it over.
It was so cool. It was just so cool seeing the store was packed full of just records and instruments and guitar straps and picks and
makes me want to check one out.
Dude, it was so sweet. And just it was just so cool how realistic it looked, and it makes you I want to go to that store,
Mm-hmm.
And another funny moment was whenever they were walking to the store, and Najika's like, why is there so many music shops in this vicinity? And then Ryu comes sprinting up, and she's like funny you should ask. Because actually this area, like you said, word vomits, and
it's funny because she slowly starts speaking faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, it was funny.
So they eventually ask, do you want to hang out? And they're like, let's let Bocchi enjoy her new guitar. So she rushes home to admire her newly acquired guitar, and she ends up I'm sorry, I won't forget about you. She starts bowing down to her old guitar, and then she just packs up and she announces to her family, I'm heading out, a completely new Bocchi from the person she was in the beginning of the show, and it's a wrap.
Yeah. And so yeah. So what do you think? It was pretty solid.
It was. I mean, I found myself having a lot of fun talking about it. So I definitely enjoyed the show. Slice of Life's not my
So
neither
of us really. It's not our favorite. I don't know if we could like.
It's not a genre I've explored enough, so maybe I'm pretty biased in saying what I have to say. But
and I don't know, like if either of us could. Like, it's hard to like a genre that's our favorite. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's so maybe it's difficult to say it. What's your favorite? But I would say for both of us, Slice of Life is not like our favorite. Like
no,
and
no reservations against it. It's just not. There are just things higher up on the list.
Yeah, and so I feel like I have a hard time like just letting it be like what it is. Like it is what it is. It's a Slice of Life and probably not meant to be taken too seriously. So I will say there was a lot of nice moments like even though they did it in like joking fashion, like a lot of wise words, and actual helpful advice and kind of inspiration, inspiring moments. So I definitely appreciated that. Especially like Hiyori. We had I think we couldn't exactly remember her name, but she said a lot of wise things and like there's a lot of like don't give up if you. So I appreciated all that. But so like in the show itself though, so they talked so much growth. That term was mentioned from episode 1 to episode 12, and but at the end of the day, Bocchi is still. And at the end of episode 12, Bocchi probably could not go say hi to some random. Yeah, she couldn't just go say hi to somebody on the street. Like and so that kind of bothered me.
And she's the only character that showed any. Well, Rika, I guess, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she got better at playing guitar, but none of them really progressed in anything. I guess none of them were really presented with things to overcome either. I guess my general thing of the show is it set a bar, which is higher than mediocre. They set a bar of like enjoyable the whole time, and it just really stayed at this baseline.
Yeah.
So it was enjoyable from front to back, but there was no real peaks in the show.
I did find myself like by episode 10, I was losing interest a little bit, and
I'm glad it was 12 episodes.
Yeah,
just brief enough to finish it up.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there was potential to make it super solid.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were seeds planted that they could have really like come full circle on and developed upon, but all things considered, I'd say rock solid Vitality.
Yeah.
Definitely not Salaryman Vitality. I'd say it's better than that, at least for me. But it's not going to be exuding with Vitality.
No, yeah.
It has a lot of character. I can see why there's a lot of buzz about it, but maybe just me not being too deep in the slice of life genre that kind of frames my opinion in a different way.
No, and so I will say, because how we had kind of mentioned like the two dudes that randomly came to the Moe Cafe.
I thought it was funny that they were in the crowd with glow sticks.
Yeah, that was funny. And so
they even made a comment about like what kind of loser brings glow sticks to a concert, and it shows them like
And so like I'm sure like that itself was probably a reference from something else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there were other references that I didn't pick up on.
I appreciated the Evangelion.
But yeah,
reference.
so I was so upset. I didn't catch it at first until Austin had told me.
Super subtle.
A little bit
super
later.
subtle.
And he tries to make me feel better about it by saying it was super subtle, but because I talk about like I'm just the biggest fan, and so I'm pretty bummed I didn't.
But it was 3 words. It was really, when you think of
but like the buzzers sounding and then her staring at the but like it's so iconic,
Familiar ceiling.
I took a long look at myself in the mirror and
like splashing water.
Yeah, like how did you not? Idiot.
Who are you?
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of okay, and so why do you think? So like Monster Energy, like they didn't use Monster Energy.
Mm-hmm.
They used Monster, and then like the energy was something else.
And then so Instagram was not, it was like Instagram.
Yeah.
And there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, it was like such a subtle difference, but you could tell it was like something. So, but for like instruments, so the Gibson guitars, so Bocchi's first guitar was a Gibson, and then she ended up getting a Yamaha. And so I wonder why, like, those are real brands. I wonder what.
Surely it was either they landed some sponsorships with instruments, like instrument companies, because they showed Marshall amps.
Yeah.
They had like the Yamaha guitar. So surely either those companies paid them to have them in there, or they paid for the rights to use those brand names, but did not want to go through the trouble of inquiring on, can we use the Monster brand in our anime without it costing an arm and a leg? And they may have inquired, and it just wasn't worth or fit within the budget.
Which is if there was people who weren't willing to like give them a free sponsorship, I think that's silly because. So what I mean, do you know off the top of your head? It won anime. Was it anime?
It was anime of the year last year.
So
2022.
Yeah, so would have been some pretty sweet sponsorship opportunities for an anime that won anime of the year.
Absolutely.
Also, I wanted to touch on what was it? I cannot remember what I was gonna say. I don't know, but yeah. So all in all, it was pretty solid.
I think it fits such a broad audience that it does well in that aspect. But I think if it became more niche and maybe had more peaks in the writing, it maybe couldn't have catered to such a large audience, but would have been a better experience.
Okay, and I remember, so something I think was really cool is, like, I learned some things like I didn't know. Like, for instance, maybe that is how like those kind of clubs really have to operate is you do have to meet a quota. And another thing, I never thought about like how Ryu, like having to write the music, like not the lyrics, but still having to write
the instrumentation.
The instrumentation. I never thought about that until watching this anime, and I was like, it gives me more appreciation for artists, like having to write all that, you know. Like I have a much deeper appreciation now. Like there's so much more goes into it. It's not just lyrics and you guys just magically get, are strumming these tunes. Like
absolutely,
there's a lot that goes into it. So I have an even more of an appreciation than I already did for like musicians. I thought it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Who's your favorite character? Did you already said Ryu? Yeah, Ryu is mine as well. Who's your least favorite? Or do you have one?
Initially, upon meeting this character, I probably would have picked the Drunken Mentor.
Yeah.
I think she added an interesting element to the show. I guess if I had to pick one, Nijika.
Yeah, I don't know.
She seems just the most flat.
Yeah, I would say
no real substance to her, just nice.
Her backstory was pretty sad, but
yeah.
Other than that, like, she's pretty stale. Or just flat, yeah. So, but it was good. It was good stuff. Another one down.
How'd you feel about the Golden Flower Tegwanyan?
Actually, I really like this one. You were acting like it as if it wasn't. It's not super impressive.
But I think of all the oolongs I've had, Superior Iron Goddess is definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot. It kind of starts with your typical vegetal front that an oolong typically carries, but it transitioned into this interesting, like, a parade where you get those strawberry candies that are wrapped. The wrapper looks like a strawberry. Yeah. It tastes like that, but it has kind of like a Greek yogurt funk.
Yeah.
I like that. It's an interesting flavor.
The most generic candy ever. That's fine. Like that and like the taffy, like the saltwater taffy. Like,
yeah.
So generic. But yeah, so I like this.
It does what I appreciated in oolong is when it starts savory and transitions into that sweet. This one does a good job of it.
Yeah, you definitely have more of a probably like a deeper appreciation than I do. But I did enjoy this one. But the Iron Goddess was pretty sweet.
It just the mouthfeel was good. I liked how the sweetness of the oolong like really hit the rim of your tongue in such an interesting way. I've never had a tea do that in my not vast experience in tasting teas, but as far as oolongs go, that's one I think I'll keep around.
Yeah.
I wouldn't shy away from this one. And the color of the liquor is cool. I can see why it's called Golden Flower because it really has that. That's really what the extraction looks like. But.
So, let us know what references we missed because I'm sure.
Yeah, I think there were a lot.
Let us know what we missed and let us know what other kind of I don't know what you'd call it, like how they didn't use it, like not Instagram was like Instagram, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just let us know what we missed because I'm curious to know.
Yeah, and let us know your hot takes. I'm sure our opinion of this is going to.
I wasn't very impressed with Anime of the Year. That's all I'm saying. Anime of the Year, I wasn't impressed. All that impressed.
Yeah, so
I did not get Anime of the Year vibes from it.
I would have given it to Mushoku Tensei.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! That's yes.
But let us know what you think, why it is Anime of the Year for you if it is, and maybe what you want to see next go around. Thank you for joining us once again. Until next time.